Talk Shoes.
Recorded live.
What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Indy Power Rankings Tag Team Top 5 reveal for the week of July 24th, 2017. I am your host, Travis, and here I am joining you guys once again for like a 4th straight week. That's got to be a record for quite some time anyway. Last week we spoke to Samantha Heights, the week before Amber Nova, and this week, in about 5 minutes' time, we'll have last week's number 1 and the current Shine Nova champion, Priscilla Kelly, coming on to talk about her big victory last week, her number 1 ranking, and whatever else we can jam into the time allotted. So first, let's get into why we do the show. It's the Tag Team Top 5 reveal. Revealing the top 5 teams along with the People's Champs for the week of July 24th, 2017. People's Champs this week, they won the online voting competition, 61 votes collected. For this team, it's Brock Hall and Logan Lynch, which means ACW Wisconsin swept the polls this week as they had the statists win the singles voting, and Brock Hall and Logan Lynch, the ACW Wisconsin Tag Team Champions, who defeated the Dream Police on July 22nd to win those titles. They win the tag team voting quite easily, at least as far as the polls go. Next up, you've got at number 5, To Infinity and Beyond. This is a team we're obviously familiar with. It's Cheech and Colin Delaney, the Absolute Intense Wrestling Tag Team Champions. They picked up a big win to get the number 5 ranking. They defeated Crazy Payne, Ninja Elite Squad, and Laredo Kid and DJ Z in a 4-way on July 21st to retain those titles. Going to the number 4 spot, again, it was one victory. This was a week where a lot of teams were just getting one win, so that's kind of how this worked. But anyway, number 4, Berserk, El Lindemann, Shingo Takagi, and Takashi Yoshida. The Triangle Gate champions out there in Dragon Gate. They defeated the Jimmies, Genki Horiguchi, HAG Me, Jimmy Susumu, and Ryo Jimmy Saito at Dragon Gate on 7/23 to retain those titles. So they get the number 4 spot with that victory. Again, we're talking one-win weekends for just about every team here. Polo Promotions gets the number 3 ranking. Jackie Polo and Mark Coffey, the Target Wrestling and new Pro Wrestling Elite Tag Team Champions, defeated the UK Hooligans. You may know them as Roy and Zach Knight, and the NAK, Chris Renfrew and BT Gunn at PWE on July 22nd to win those titles. So big win for them, gets them the number 3 ranking. It's a team you've seen before, obviously, and, well, here they are. All right, so sitting at number 2, Roppongi Vice, and this is a team who did really well in the official ballots. They came really close to getting number 1, but they end up with number 2, and this is a team in New Japan, at least. It looked like they were never going to team again, but at Wrestle Circus, they are the big top tag team champions. Got to watch them on Twitch the other day. I highly recommend you check out their shows when you get the chance. They knocked off one of the premier tag teams anywhere right now, and you saw them in the Tag Team Top 50 mid-year update, and you'll see them again by the end of the year. I'm sure it's the Lucha Brothers, Ray Phoenix and Penta L0M. And, again, they beat them at Wrestle Circus on July 22nd to retain those titles. So you will see them teaming until they lose those titles, and they've got Adam Cole and Britt Baker coming up next month. So be on the lookout for that. We'll see if they can continue this late surge by them. All right, number 1 team, and it's the first time they've done it. It's Mustache Mountain, 2/3 of the British Strong Style trio. This is Trent Seven and Tyler Bate. They're the Progress World Tag Team Champions, and they pick up a victory over War Machine, the IWGP Tag Team Champions, on July 23rd. To retain those titles, and that got them a number 1. Again, this week was all about teams who had just one win, but they were all, big wins up and down the top 5. So, with those wins all the way throughout the whole thing, you ended up with the rankings for this week. It wasn't a week that was about tournaments or all sorts of other things. It was really just about huge wins, title defenses, title wins, and everything else. So, coming on in about just a few seconds is Priscilla Kelly, the number 1 ranking from last week in the Indy Power Rankings. Priscilla, what's up?
Hi.
So you were like riding a roller coaster of momentum. First, you win the Shine Nova tournament to win that title, and then you get a unanimous number one ranking last week. Like every official voter went Priscilla Kelly on their ballot. You won 4 matches in one weekend. Is that the most matches you've ever had in one weekend?
Man, now you've got me thinking about it. I didn't even think about that. Maybe, probably. It was definitely one of the more intense weekends I've had yet.
Oh yeah, definitely. I could definitely see that from watching it at home. I mean, talk a little bit about the weekend. All right, everybody, is like, wrestling's work, and they want to, like, get on people like Kevin Owens when he wins the Universal title and, his kid gets emotional. But it was obvious that you were emotional, too. And everybody can say whatever they want about wrestling, but it's obvious that title win meant something to you.
Yeah, it's for a few different reasons, actually. So obviously my wrestling career, it started with, my brother and stuff. So it was part of it feeling like, my brother looks up to me, and have an accomplishment like that to bring home and show him. And, in his heart, his big sister did something. And then on top of that, like my first year and a half to 2 years in the business was very difficult for me because I had a lot of people coming down on me. I had a lot of people doubting me, telling me that I would never do anything, that I would never leave the state of Georgia, that I wouldn't, that I would just be garbage for the rest of my career. And so dealing with all of that kind of stuff, it kind of just made me feel like, none of that was true. And me sticking with it really, really paid off. And it's one of those things where, like, anytime I meet somebody that is going through it or is having a hard time in the business early on, I can tell them, hey, take it from me. If you stick with it, I promise you, you will go places. You just gotta stay with it.
Now, I know a lot of people that have wrestled in the state of Georgia and a lot of people that have wrestled in, like, the state of Tennessee, and it all seems like the same mindset in that area. You've got the people that you call, the 40-milers. Those are the ones that like to say the things that you were talking about. They probably discouraged you. They probably said you weren't going to amount to anything. I don't know who did it, but I can imagine that there's, a lot of people like that in Southern wrestling. And again, I don't want to paint Southern wrestling in a bad light, but it just seems to be more prevalent there. But maybe it's just because I'm more familiar with it. Talk a little bit about, kind of overcoming the stigma of the idea that so many people down there don't get out of the territory they get stuck in.
I think what it is a lot of people, when they first break in the business, they don't know anything about the independents. So, I mean, I wouldn't say hardly anybody in Georgia even knows what Evolve is or what Shine is. And if they do know, they don't really know much about it. They don't really know what's outside of the state and, the few surrounding states, if that. And because when I first got in the business, I didn't think there was anything outside of the company that I originally started in WWE. That's all I thought there was. So, like, whenever I left the company that I first broke into the business with, I thought that was it. Like, I didn't know that there was other places. And then, obviously I met more people when I first started out from managing. I would go to different shows and I would meet more people, and those people would introduce me to different shows. And then, it kind of grows from there. But I think a lot of people just don't know that there is anything outside of Georgia. And I think that's why a lot of them just think that they're hitting big time if they're hitting the biggest show in Georgia, if that makes sense.
No, it does. But it's kind of crazy, though, that Georgia's so close to Florida and that there's still that mindset there that there's nothing else for you, because Florida's just, I mean, we all know this. If you watch NXT, if you watch anything that's going on right now, Florida's like the hub of professional wrestling. I talked about that with Amber Nova a couple weeks ago, and, I'm talking about it with you now. It's just hard to believe that there's still people with that mindset. You're that close to Florida with all these promotions, WWN Live running all the time down there, and there's still people who think you can't get out of Georgia.
Yeah. And again, it might be a thing where a lot of people just don't want to make drives and don't want to risk or lose a little bit to get some notoriety or exposure. And, obviously, like, don't abuse that. But probably my first full 2 years in the business, because I mean, I was in business for a year as a manager before I actually wrestled, but my first 2 years, like, I would drive up and down for exposure. And, there's times, you have to do that. And then once you do that and you build your name somewhere, then that's when you start making something for yourself. And I don't think a lot of people understand that.
Now, I know you're always paying dues in the business. I get that. But, once you kind of get over that hump of where you're, I don't know, driving the boys around or driving whoever's training you around for however long you need to do it, do you get met with any kind of resentment, once you kind of get over that hump, or do people immediately accept you because you've paid your dues? Because some people think that, oh, you've only been there 2 years, you're getting too much too soon, that type of thing. I'm just wondering, because you're blowing up right now, I think, and, you may feel differently, but I feel like you are, and it's pretty quick how quickly you've blown up in the wrestling business. And I'm just wondering how people have reacted to that, especially some of the quote-unquote vets that are around.
I'm sure people say stuff because, I mean, there's always been somebody to say something about me since I started because, I mean, I won't get into it because I don't really like to talk about it too much, but, obviously I did a TV show before I started wrestling, and that haunts me to this day because people swear that, the only reason that I have anything that I have is because of that reality show, and that is not true. When I first started and I was managing and I didn't have any sort of name for myself, did people use that a little bit to promote me? Yes. But as far as where I am in wrestling today, it's not because of that. So, I mean, people have always been trying to find something to pick at. And the thing that I guess I will say about getting a lot really early and as young as I am, you just have to do it intelligently because there's people that will be handed a lot really early. And I feel like, because they're immature or, don't know how to take it, they immediately get a big head and walk around expecting everything from everybody, expecting a $300 payout 4 hours away from home. You know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of people take it really too far, and the important part is not to take yourself too seriously and just to always be grateful for everything. And that's all I've ever been. And, I tell Sal and I tell Gabe from WWN all the time, I'm just like, thank you guys for everything. Because, like, even my trainer, I tell him every day because, you have to remember where you come from, where you start. And I think a lot of people just forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you see it all over the place now, people forgetting where they came from or just, not thankful for the people that got them there. What I'm curious about with you is because you had that background, obviously, I don't think anything was handed to you, but my question is the opposite. Do you feel like you had to work harder because of it? Even if it's not true, I mean, in your own mind, are you feeling like you're always having to work that much harder to kind of, I don't know, get that idea out of people's minds?
I mean, it took me a long time because, like, I used to sit and beat myself up over what every little thing everybody used to say about me on the internet or in person. And, I kind of grew to a point where I just had to say F everybody and what they think or say about me. And, when I started having that mentality, that's when I actually started seeing myself as more successful, not just mentally, but, in what I'm doing as well. So, it's one of those things where, like, I don't really care if they do think it or don't, but I feel like I work hard to make my people back home that, trained me and got me my start proud, and I work hard because I just can't do stuff the lazy way. I don't know how, like I feel like if I'm not going out there killing myself, then, I'm not showing what Priscilla Kelly can do. And every show that I work, I like everybody to, leave the show knowing that, okay, that's what Priscilla Kelly is. She doesn't go out there and, half-ass stuff. She, will go out there. She will help set up and tear down, and she will go out there and work a hell of a match. And that's just the memory that I want everybody to remember me by. Well, that sounds terrible, but, if anything was to happen